everything that we're surrounded by is either the abundance of light or the absence of light. Everything that we see comes from light. Some of the older corporate logos utilize these symbols with hidden meaning, with esoteric meaning for those who are looking to see them. Symbols surround us everywhere. They can be hidden simply within a logo, like the FedEx logo, where the negative space between the E and the X present the symbol of an arrow facing forward. Or they can be complex symbolism found within a simple logo or design, like the 7-Up logo. And for those who can actually see this symbol, like Manly P. Hall was saying, you realize that it represents the 7 chakras bubbling up from the root chakra, which is always depicted as a red circular shape. And so this is the red circle of the 7-Up logo. And then you get into the esoteric knowledge of the chakra points, and your crown chakra, which represents the pineal gland, is also symbolic of the lotus flower, which is what it's often depicted as. And as we know, the lotus grows out of the water and can also contain a lot of dimethyltryptamine or DMT, which is also constructed and built in your pineal gland in your own mind. And so the 7-Up logo, to those with eyes to see it, actually has such a deeper meaning than just a bubbly drink that we like from day to day. The magic of symbols comes back to 3 simple shapes. And the shapes are the triangle, the square, and the circle. And how do you make these shapes? Well, the circle you make with a compass, right? And so you use the compass to create the circle. The square, you use a squared straight edge or ruler to create a square. And to create the triangle, you use both the squared straight edge and the compass. And it's fascinating that going back into secret societies, the compass and the squared straight edge is the symbology for the Freemasons. And so this is a really interesting aspect, that we're learning these shapes using these old tools and techniques. And what's interesting about these 3 shapes is they can take on 4 different multipliers that totally change their meaning. And these 3 shapes literally are the building blocks for every single symbol and logo and icon out there. And so if we add the multipliers, we have numerology that we can add. And so we assign numbers to these shapes. The triangle has 3 sides. The square has 4 sides. The circle has 1 side. And we add this up and it equals 8. Well, 8 is a magical number, right? In gematria, this is what we would do. We would add these numbers together to create 8. And we're surrounded by 8 every day and don't really realize it. We have 8 fingers on our hands. Thumbs are not considered fingers. If you want to win the game of pool or lose the game of pool, you sink the 8 ball. There's 8 notes in a magical octave, and it starts on 1 note and it ends on the same note, but it's at a higher frequency. We're surrounded by 8 3 times in the day. So the first 8 hours of the day is the morning, the second 8 hours of the day is the midday, and the third 3 hours of the day, or 8 hours of the day, is the evening. And combined, this makes 24 hours, and so on. And so these shapes, definitely take on some interesting multipliers. A second multiplier is adding color theory to these shapes. And so in color theory, we either add light color, everything that we're surrounded by is either the abundance of light or the absence of light. Everything that we see comes from light. And so if we assign red to the triangle, green to the square, and blue to the circle, we have RGB, red, green, blue. And when we combine these 3 light colors together, it creates a bright white light. If we were to use these 3 colors as pigments or printed colors, and we combine red, green, and blue as a printed or pigment color, we get a rich black, is what we call it in the design world. And it's interesting because this is representational of as above, so below. So you have the brightness of the sky, and then you have the richness of the soil beneath. You see this symbolism in the infinity and the unity of the yin and yang symbol. I like to look at this as an island in the middle of the ocean meets an oasis in the middle of the desert, and there's the Kundalini energy that connects the two between. If you look into movie symbolism, I love to quote Star Wars. If you look at the first 3 movies of the Star Wars saga, 4, 5, and 6, you have this interesting story of Luke Skywalker. And so Luke is symbolic of Lucius, or the sun, walking across the sky. And when it gets to night, he is fighting his dark father, Darth Vader, all the way until the next day when the sun vindicates or liberates the night sky. Okay, and so this is symbolic of the three movies. The first movie, you have Luke's story. The second movie, he's fighting his father. And in the third movie, he vindicates and validates his father by becoming the son that he has to become. And so the symbolism here is fascinating and amazing. And then you take it one step further and you add elements to these three shapes and three colors. And so the red triangle becomes the element of fire. The green square becomes the element of earth. The blue circle becomes the element of water. And these are alchemical symbols, because if you put together the prima materia, the earth, and the sacred water, and you boil it and burn it down with the fire, what you're left with is this white powder, this philosopher's stone, or the mana, which is a white light stone, which is incredibly fascinating. But then we can take it one step even further, and we add dimensionality to these three shapes. And so the red fire triangle becomes the pyramid. Well, we know in ancient Greek, pyramidium means the fire in the middle, okay? And so then the square, which is the green earth square, becomes the cube. And the cube is representational of the earth. It has 6 sides, it's dimensional. It can be measured as through cubits or through the ruler, or if you're a despot or a monarch or something, you would also rule the land of the earth. And the 6 sides represent the 6 continents of the planet. So you have North America, you have South America, you have Eurasia, you have Africa, you have Australia, and you have Antarctica. So these are the 6 surfaces of the cube, which represents the earth. And then for the blue water symbol of the circle, you have the sphere, which becomes a globe. And how do you navigate the globe? With a compass. And so you're back to this ruler and this compass aspect. And so in Zoroastrian, Zoroaster himself said that the greatest symbol of the human is to stack these 3 magical shapes together to create the symbol of the human. And so you have the circle, the triangle, and the square representing the symbology of the human. And this was like 1500 BC. And so if you take that symbology that he's talking about way back then and you apply all of these multipliers that we just talked about, the head becomes the water element. The upper torso becomes the pyramid or the fire element, and the lower torso becomes the cube or the earth element. And so when you look at the head, what do you look at? You see water, right? And so we ingest water through our mouths. We have our salivary glands. We have our mucus. We have our tear ducts. A lot of our sweat starts in our forebrow or our head. And we have the sacred water of the pineal gland, right? So then you move into the upper torso, and this becomes the pyramid or the upside down pyramid, and the fire is in the middle. Well, what is our fire in our middle? It's our heart. It's pumping our red fire blood, right? But then we also have all of our processing organs within the upper torso as well, and they are burning the fuel that we feed our bodies to make our bodies work. And then in the woman, you have the sacred womb space, which is a generator for the next generation of life. And so then you move into the lower torso, and this is representation of earth. And in our lower torsos, we are grounded to the earth. Through our excrement, we refertilize the earth. And for men, our sacred seed comes from this lower element of earth. It's the earth seed, and it fertilizes the egg in the womb, which creates the spark or the fire of life in the generation or generator of the womb, creating the next life. And so all of these symbols together create this magical aspect of symbolism, and it can then be applied to corporate logos or esoteric knowledge as well, moving it into different directions. And so coming full circle back around to corporate logos, this is a fascinating question, a fascinating topic. Some of the older corporate logos, I believe, utilize these symbols with hidden meaning, with esoteric meaning for those who are looking to see them. In my own field, I've created logos that definitely utilize these aspects. But if we're looking at corporate logos that represent, like for instance, the circle, we can look at the ESA or European Space Agency logo, which is a dark blue circle representing the water of Earth. The E represents Europe or the Earth, and then there's a dot in the circle. And if you look at the dot, this could be a satellite, it could be the moon, it could be the star of Sirius. There are different representations of what it could mean. Or you look at a logo like the AT&T logo, and you also have a blue sphere. And through the blue sphere are stripes, white stripes, and these represent telecommunication or fiber optics. But if you're looking at as a water or sphere element, then these stripes actually represent the clouds that cover the water. And so there's an interesting esoteric, background to that symbol as well. If we're looking at triangle logos, look no further than Delta Airlines, right? Delta is the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet. Its symbol itself is a triangle, and the Delta logo is three pyramids rising from the ground. So it's showing flight. So you have a smaller pyramid, you have the negative space in between, which is the secondary pyramid, and then on top of that you have the third pyramid, and they're both dimensional shapes. And then you get into the square logos. Well, we could look at the squares of the mind's eye with or the stained glass windows and the windows to the eye of the Microsoft logo. But another logo that I really like to look at that has such magic involved in it is the Rubik's Cube and the Rubik's logo. And so here we are, a cube. It has 6 sides. There are 6 different colors, and each side has 9 squares or 9 facets of color. And to solve the puzzle of the box, you have to unify each side with a different color of these 9 squares. And what's fascinating with the number 9 is it's one of these master magical numbers. And so hidden right there in plain sight is a number that if you add it to itself or you multiply it by other numbers, the gematria of this number will always equal 9. For instance, 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 is 8 and 1. That's 9. Add another 9 and you have 27. 2 and 7 is 9. If you multiply 9 by 6 for the 6 sides of the Rubik's Cube, you have 54. Well, 54, 5 plus 4 is 9. And 9 is a magical symbol of man as well, because we spend 9 months in the womb. A lot of these companies have Masonic ties, and you will always see star symbolism within their logos. The star of Sirius, the dog star of Sirius FM, the dog with the star eye, or even OnStar, which is an interesting company, because here we have 2 words within the word mark OnStar, which also represent the logo of On with the star. And as you have described in other shows, On was the name for the city of Heliopolis, which represented the sun, or the bright sun. And so in Masonic tradition, the bright sun is always considered Sirius, and it's a sun that they revere within their structure and their symbolism as well. And so seeing logos that have a bright star or a bright sun singularity within the logo, if you know what to look for, this is a company that if you're a Mason, you can do safe business with. Or, a lot of the older logos pick this up. Some of the newer logos, not so much. But a lot of the older logos and old long-term corporate brands definitely have some of this stuff baked into them. Once society wakes up and starts seeing these symbols, it will have a profound change on society, because we start recognizing the simplicity of symbols around us. And so, you look at the movies, and I was talking about Harry Potter earlier, before we got back into some of the older esoteric stuff, and you look at the druids and the magicians, and what were they making their wands out of? They were making out of the wood of holly, or the holly tree. And when they would cast a spell, like the Patronus spell in Harry Potter, it would create a bright silver light that would bedazzle people. Well, symbolically today, we look to Hollywood, the wood of the holly, to dazzle or bedazzle us with the light across the silver screen. And so there's all these symbols, all around us every day.
shall be.